I sold my Sony A7S III for this, and honestly, I don't miss it because the Sony A7 V does everything I need it to, and in some ways, it's actually better. It's kind of a weird camera, to be honest, and on paper, it's not the best at anything, but in real life, it might actually be the best overall camera you can get for under $3 grand. My name is Mark Bergering. I've been a professional photographer for over 15 years, and on this channel, I share practical photography advice. So hit subscribe if that sounds helpful. So in this video, I want to break down why I switched from the A7S III to the A7 V and what this camera actually does well and whether it's truly the best value camera on the market right now. So here's the deal. I didn't upgrade to this camera. I kind of simplified to it. I was running the A7S III for video and the A7 IV for photo, and both are great cameras, but honestly, this is the perfect hybrid of both of them. I realized something. I didn't need a dedicated video camera anymore. What I needed was 4K 60 with no crop. And the A7 V does that. It's got 20/26 autofocus capability, which is awesome. It's got minimal rolling shutter and something that could shoot both photos and video at a high level. It does all of that. That's what makes it interesting to me. And it's not trying to be a cinema camera. It's not trying to be a high resolution photo camera. It's trying to be the one camera that is actually perfect for hybrid shooting like I do. So let's start with video performance. Because video performance is the reason that I switched. You get full width, 4K 60, 10-bit, high quality video with really solid color, and you get the top of the line autofocus that is similar to the flagship camera of the Sony A7 II. But the biggest change over the A7 IV is the lack of rolling shutter challenges that really plagued that camera. The partially stacked sensor in the A7 V makes a huge difference. You can actually pan, tilt, shoot handheld and capture motion without just getting those really wobbly lines. And compared to older cameras in this category, it's just way more functional. Also, and this matters more than specs, it doesn't overheat. That's something that you might encounter if you go to other brands. You can record long clips for YouTube. You can record long interviews, weddings, whatever you need, and it's not gonna overheat on you. That's a huge advantage. That alone makes it more practical than the quote better cameras on the market. All right, next up, autofocus. That's exactly the winning capability that I think Sony is providing right now. The AI tracking is pretty legit. It's not just detecting subjects. It feels like it actually kind of understands what's happening in a scene, and in a real world shooting scenario, it just locks on and stays there. You can kind of stop thinking about autofocus because it really is quite smart, and I find that it finds the subject, and even when there's a crowded soccer field of people moving, somehow it feels like it knows which player you want to capture. All right, now photo performance. That's something that really it needs to stand out in, and it's where this camera kind of surprised me again. Because on paper, it's not that exciting. It has the same 33 megapixels as my Sony A7 IV, but now with the stacked sensor, it's got tons of speed, along with great dynamic range, awesome detail, really flexible files, and unless you're doing really specialized work where you need the high resolution of these A7R V, I think 33 megapixels is more than enough. It can also shoot up to 30 frames per second in the electronic shutter, which is pretty legit for an action camera, or not an action camera, but a camera that can shoot action. It works really well. And that wasn't true with the Sony A7 IV. I think that topped out at like 10, 11 frames per second, which just isn't enough if you're trying to capture a super fast car or a skier or something that you really need that capability for. Combine that with the fact that the sensor is stacked and the file readout is really quick, and you don't get that warped problem that you have with electronic shutter modes of previous cameras. You can actually use 30 frames per second electronic shutter and get those full high resolution files in that extremely fast speed. And it has pre-capture, which is something that I didn't really pay attention to at first, but now that I tested this camera at a Sony event and bought one, I've been playing with it a lot. It's really cool. It allows you to hold down the shutter and it's recording 30 frames per second, and until you press the shutter button, it doesn't actually write those to the card. So you can record 30 frames per second for a full second before the peak moment happens, and you never miss a shot. It was really fun to test out on my son's soccer game when you don't expect something to happen and you've just held that shutter halfway down the whole time, and then as soon as you press the shutter, you can continue recording 30 frames a second and get that peak moment really easily. All right, moving on to the lens lineup, which is another big win for Sony over the competitors, namely the Canon brand. The R6 III on paper is awesome camera. It's got tons of high-end specs, but the biggest thing that pushed me towards the Sony lineup, other than the fact that I've already invested in Sony lenses, is the fact that there's a ton of third-party lenses. Now you've got the high-end Sony G Master lenses all the way down to some really budget-friendly, cheap lenses from Viltrox and other manufacturers that allow you to try almost any focal length at any price point. And that is really where the cost of this camera system becomes much more accessible to people. While the R6 Mark III, it looks awesome. Yeah, I want to shoot, 7K 60p video, but realistically, I'd rather have a ton of lenses that I can use and buy at different price points where the used market is readily available and I don't have to buy specific Canon brand lenses that are often much more expensive. People are always telling me that you can adapt old DSLR lenses, but to me that just feels a little bit clunky. You have to have that adapter and then the DSLR lens on front, and those were certainly not designed to be small. So the native mirrorless lenses are really what I want in a camera system. Now, usability, that's the real story with this camera. And it's where I think people misunderstand it. Everyone focuses on what it doesn't have, but what matters is how it feels to use. And it's a fast camera, it's fast to switch modes, it's fast for sensor readout, you can customize everything, all the buttons, the video setup, it's got slow motion, and you can just feel really confident that this thing is gonna be a solid workhorse. And that matters more than specs to me because, of course, on paper, other cameras might look more interesting, but when you practically get out there and you grip the camera and you fold out this cool flippy screen that is actually quite functional because most professionals want to shoot in this way and most vloggers want to shoot in this way. You've got both in one camera. The reality of this camera is that it's much more functional than people realize. Now, it's not perfect. There's no internal raw video, no open gate, which people are pretty upset about. The buffer isn't amazing for long bursts of, 30 frames per second, but the real performance is that it does everything pretty well. Sure, it doesn't have the low light performance of my A7S III that I just sold, but it does have all these other features that make it much more friendly to use. I think the real takeaway that people need to realize is that most cameras today are awesome. When you compare them to the cameras of years ago, they're just incredible. The difference in how well they fit your workflow, that's where it goes from specs to real world shooting. And it's 80 to 90% of the flagship camera for half the price. And to me, that is what gives it incredible value. And it can replace multiple cameras that I previously had and do all those features in one camera for under $3,000. And that's why, honestly, I think it might be one of the best full frame sub $3,000 cameras on the market right now. Not because it's the most powerful, but because it's the most balanced. It's got great photo capabilities, video capabilities, autofocus. It's super reliable, tons of lenses, and most importantly, it just works. So if you use the A7 IV and are considering upgrading to the A7 V, I think you will find a dramatic difference between the two. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'd love to hear how this camera compares to what you're thinking of getting and learn more about what cameras are working for different people. I hope this was helpful. If you disagree, again, leave a comment and I'd be happy to hear your perspective. But if you're trying to find some budget lenses to go with this camera or another Sony camera, I would highly encourage you to check out this video on a lens roundup that I recently did. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over there.